So the political streamer Destiny went on this podcast. I guess it's called the At Whatever podcast. I actually, to be totally honest, I've never heard of it before this debate, which you're about to see some of right here. It is a 4-hour and 19-minute discussion on the issue of abortion. It is a debate on the issue of abortion. Now, look, overall in this podcast, I will say, so I enjoyed it, but at the same time, the two pro-lifers on the panel here, the anti-abortion activists, these two ladies you see in front of me, not in front of me, on the screen, whatever, they really cut him off a lot, man. I mean, he couldn't get a word out. He couldn't get a thought out without them, like, immediately jumping in and hitting him with another question. And literally throughout a lot of the podcast, he was, like, writing notes that responded to all of the different questions that they asked him. And it was like they were seemingly not interested in him actually answering the questions. It was just like they were virtue signaling and hurling accusations, and they weren't even interested in a response. So in many ways, it's actually a cautionary tale that, you know, if you're going to do a discussion or even a debate, you want to have a discussion or debate with somebody who's actually interested in hearing your perspective and then responding accordingly. Not people who are just going to sit there and go through their list of stuff, and if you say anything back to them, it just hits a brick wall, right? So it's just like they wanted to get on their moral high horse and accuse everybody who's pro-choice of just supporting baby murder, and they weren't really interested in a debate. So anyway, I think it would have been better if you dropped one of the two of the women in this conversation and just did a one-on-one. I think it would have been a hell of a lot more productive. But even given all that, I think he did a good job dealing with two people who are anti-abortion activists and debating them on the topic of abortion. So I wanted to play a little portion of the debate for you, because this, I think, sums up the dynamic very, very well, and he knocks it out of the park with this. Watch.
When does a child become a child? When is it okay to call a preborn life a child in your view?
I don't know. That's a semantic question I'm not really
interested in. So why are you upset
in.
about us using the word if you don't really have an
Because
opinion
we're not just
on
having semantic disagreements. We're having like very discrete disagreements on morality over when somebody should be.
So where do you disagree then? When do you think
My disagreement is I don't think that it
child?
becomes a person at
But
conception
you
that's
just said
endowed
you
with
don't
human
like
rights.
us using the word child. When
I
does
don't
the life become a child?
You know, because now you just asked me about childhood, and now you're asking child. The reason
I'm
why we're
asking
arguing over
when you start having your childhood, when you start becoming a child.
Let me know
when
when I
is
can
that?
fully answer the question, okay?
Please tell me.
Okay. We're having a conversation right now about when something is endowed with like moral consideration. When
I'm
does
asking
something
you a pretty simple question, actually.
Are you a liar?
I'm just asking.
I asked you to if I could finish. You said I could, and now you cut me off.
Let's let
you lied. This was the entire podcast, by the way. He would begin to answer that. But what about? And it's like, let me answer your question.
To me,
Finish
okay. Let me finish the question. Don't lie, because you'll lose moral consideration. Okay. All right. No. If the subject of the debate is when does a fetus become a person? Okay, child is another word for person. So when you say,
okay, that's
do
what I
you
was
think
trying
it's
to
okay? When you say,
please let
do you think
Destiny
it's
finish.
okay to kill a child? Obviously, the answer is no. I don't think it's okay to kill a child. But that's not the
What do you
conversation
call
we're
it
having. The
before
conversation we're
it's a child?
having
Please,
is
just let them
when is
finish.
something considered a child? So that's why I'm obviously going to push when you say you're saying we should kill children
What do
at
you call
2
it?
weeks old. I don't know, a fetus, whatever you want to call it.
But do you know what the Latin word fetus means?
I don't care. I'm not Latin.
It means young one. It's another word for child.
That's great. There are young ones that are puppies. That doesn't
human
have any
child
bearing on me.
Look, you can't stop trying to do like the gotcha. Stop trying to do the semantic games, you know? And that's really what they're doing here. You could look, this woman's face, you could tell she was not a fan of that rebuttal from her friend here, because she's like, oh, you idiot. You just ran into that. You just ran into a total trap.
Etymologically, like win the debate against me.
So just
do you
to
think
clarify,
puppies get consciousness at a certain point?
Not human
just to
consciousness,
clarify,
no.
we're only allowed to call
That would be an
a
interesting
human
question.
life a child at Destiny's arbitrary line of consciousness. Is
What
that
I'm
correct?
saying is that
Because you're very offended when we use this term, so I'm trying to understand when it is in your book correct to use
if
it.
anybody is triggered in this room, it is not me. Okay.
That's good.
So it's funny that you keep using the offended line. I'm used to
Okay,
the you
you disagree strongly.
No, I don't disagree. You're just like
don't
presupposing the argument. That's the
It's
issue.
pissing you off when we use the word child, is what we're saying.
Confirm or deny. Are you
Confirm or
pissed
deny.
off, Destiny?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I
like
actually.
Can I? Wait, no, hold on. It's the same thing as you guys, because I know you guys, and I guess maybe this is just like in your brain, just how you approach these conversations. But I know you guys get frustrated when people argue with you, and you're like, you just want to take rights away from the mom. Oh, so you're trying to make moms slaves? You're turning moms into baby factories?
Yeah.
That would be, if I wanted to engage in the same style of conversation you're engaging in, I would just say that over and over again. Why do you want to make moms baby factories? Why do you want to make moms slaves? You know what is really problematic is when we take away rights from certain groups of people and we force them to do things with their bodies that they don't want to. A lot of eugenics was done that way. A lot of the Nazi concentration camps were that way. In Japan, Unit 343 did a lot of weird things like that, or whatever the fuck, right?
Except in
So
cases
if you're going to make the
no
argument that like, oh, well,
behavior.
viewing people as people sometimes and not as really problematic, then I'll say, okay, well, restricting rights from people, especially women, has also been really problematic historically.
So-
Welcome to women's suffrage. Welcome to women being able to own property. Welcome to women having access to birth control.
Thank you
Welcome
for
to women
explaining
being able to
women's
do-
rights to
No
us.
problem. I'll do
I
it since
appreciate
you guys have the problem with the understanding. But I'm saying I'm not doing that because that's boring to me, because obviously if you guys thought that a fetus wasn't a human life, then you would obviously agree with me. And if I agree that a fetus was a human life, I would obviously agree with you.
He's laying the smack down here. He's saying, look, you're not engaging honestly. You're not engaging honestly. You're not actually interested in a debate or a discussion on the topic. You're just doing your right-wing virtue signaling talking points. And everything comes morally loaded. So he's like, if you want me to engage in the same way you're engaging, when you say, I want to kill a baby, okay, well then you want to control a woman's body and make her a slave, right? We could talk past each other all day long and go to our talking points, or we could actually try to engage on the substance and get at the core of our disagreements and maybe make some movement in a proper direction. So, look, this is just a little snippet of the podcast I wanted to show you. I'll play a little more for you.
Use
don't
normatively loaded terms.
This is an important point.
When you use normatively loaded terms like murder a child or commit homicide, then all you're doing is you're begging the question.
don't-
Because
you're not-
obviously,
okay.
nobody at this table and nobody in this room believes in killing children or committing homicide against children.
Except
the
that
question
I have
is,
a question
when
for
does it
Destiny.
become a child? That's
I
the
have a
whole
question
subject.
for
By the way, both of them chiming in at the same time over and over and over. It really would have been better if there was just one of them. I'm just saying, it would have been a better look even for them if there was just one of them instead of the two of them. Okay, so look, he's right. Basically, you don't want to have that stupid, almost like a cable news segment of a debate where it's like, you want to kill a baby. Well, you want to control a woman's body and make her a slave. That's not... Do we really want to have like a 4-minute back and forth, which is just to like get our teams riled up? Like, hooray, our side won. No, our side won because you said the magic words, the fortune cookie platitudes that we all go by. To have a serious conversation on the issue of abortion, you're really trying to get down to what's moral, what's immoral, what's ethical, what's unethical. When is there a child there? When is there a person that has rights involved? And there is a massive spectrum that exists. You have some people say the second you're done having sex, there's a third person in the room with full constitutional rights. There's conception. People have argued for 2 weeks and 6 weeks and a 12-week line and a 15-week line and a 20-week line and a 24-week line. There's a fetal pain standard. There's a when consciousness develops standard, which, by the way, is what Destiny standard is. There's a viability standard. There's a draw the line just before quote-unquote late term standard. There's a right up to the line of birth standard. And I think the frustration is basically, the conversations between the second you're done having sex, there's a third person in the room. Those people, and the right up to the line of birth people, like, there's going to be no meeting of the minds and actual engagement. It's just going to be basically a virtue signal contest. So, look, his standard is consciousness. I happen to agree with him, but my agreement with him is not for the exact same reasons. For me, intuitively, I always felt like there's a different moral consideration completely once there's pain involved. Once there's pain involved. And people could flip that on me and say, well, okay, but do you care about the pain of animals that you end up eating? And it's like, my honest answer to that is like, I do, but I honestly think I'm engaging in something that's somewhat immoral or unethical when, I end up eating food where there was pain at some point down the line inflicted on an animal in order to get that food to my plate. Like, I actually happen to agree with like vegan moral intuitions on that exact issue. Doesn't mean I don't eat animals. I do. But I just think the line of pain, there's something about that intuitively makes me go, it's a different question. It's a different moral consideration. So him and I happen to agree on the line. He says about 20 weeks in this podcast, but his reasoning is more because that's when he thinks consciousness comes about. And by the way, maybe there is a link between that too. Like, you need the consciousness to experience some semblance of pain, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. It could be that the capacity to develop pain is totally separate from consciousness. It's just, when the nervous system is created or whatever. But by the way, there's also heated debate about when that line really is, right? There's some people who claim it's, the line is as early as like 12 weeks where there's pain, but I've seen other stuff that says 20 to 24 weeks where there's pain. So it's really largely a guessing game. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you take that standard and you implement it, what do you end up with? Roe versus Wade. Because the way Roe versus Wade worked is they said the first trimester, it's a right of the woman. Government can't get involved. The second trimester, you could have some health regulations. And then the third trimester, if states so choose, they can ban it. So Roe versus Wade, a lot of people don't accurately acknowledge this, but Roe versus Wade was actually a moderate decision. It wasn't like all systems go in all 50 states up until the line of birth. And it wasn't, let's ban abortion immediately from conception or the second you're done having sex or whatever. You can't hurt a zygote or a gamete, right? So it's a moderate position, and that's where I like to consider myself. I think I'm kind of a moderate on the issue. And I got to admit, I do find the hardcore perspectives on this, I do find kind of brain dead. It does strike me as like, I'm just going to throw my lot in with my side, So anyway, there you have it. Go watch the whole debate if you want. I didn't get through all of it. I want to say I got through like maybe 3 hours of it or 2 hours and 45 minutes or something. So I didn't even sit through the whole thing, but this part I think summed up the debate very well, where he's like, I'm trying to have a real debate or discussion with you here, and you keep going to, the bumper sticker responses to me, and that's not interesting, that's not engaging, that's not entertaining. That's like if I turned it on you and said, you just want to make women slaves. You would say that's a cheap point. So guess what? It's also a cheap point when you say, I want to kill a child or I want to kill a baby. The whole question is, when is it a child? When is it a person that's granted with personhood rights? Stop glossing over the fact that, you're misstating it and casting aspersions even on my premise. Like, you're not even acknowledging my premise before you react to it. So anyway, that's the breakdown. I think he did a great job. Would have been better with one of these women here, not both of them. Go check out the full thing if you want. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.